What's up, everybody? This is a podcast for Adaptations for Reproductive Strategies for the WJEC AS Biology syllabus. I hope you find it helpful to listen through before your exam as a sort of last-minute revision thing. If you're going to use it before then, I suggest that you write notes on it yourself so that it doesn't just go over your head. But good luck with your exams and everything. Thank you for listening. Bye! Reproductive strategies. Reproduction is the ability to Reproduction is the ability to produce other individuals of the same species. New individuals may be produced sexually or asexually. Asexual reproduction is far less common in animals, or they can also be produced both ways. Asexual and sexual reproduction. Asexual is usually done by bacteria and yeast, and sexual reproduction is done by more advanced animals. Flowering plants reproduce asexually and sexually. Asexual reproduction. This rapidly produces large numbers of individuals that have an identical genetic composition. Groups of genetically identical offspring produced in this way are called a clone. Such asexual reproductions are binary fission, budding. Plants that do this are bulbs such as daffodil and runners, strawberries such as tubers, and the potatoes. Sexual reproduction. This involves two parents. It is less rapid than asexual and produces genetically different offspring. Diploid body cells produce haploid cells or gametes. Fusion of haploid gametes is always involved. Advantages and disadvantages of the two methods of reproduction. In asexual reproduction, there is a lack of variety, so it's unable to adapt to its changing environment. However, an individual has a genetic makeup suited to a particular set of conditions, so large numbers may be built up. In sexual reproduction, it increases in genetic variety, so it enables a species to adapt to environmental change. It allows the development of a resistance stage in the life cycle, which enables the species to withstand diverse conditions. The formation of spores, seeds, and larvae enables the dispersal of offspring. This reduces intraspecific competition, so enables genetic variety to be developed as required. Mutations. These are rare in asexual reproduction, but help to create a little variety. They are more frequent in sexual reproduction, but still very rare they are more frequent because of the greater complexity of the process. Gamete production and fertilisation. Living organisms have diploid cells and haploid cells, also known as gametes. Body cells with a full chromosome number are produced by mitosis. Haploid cells with half the number of chromosomes are produced by meiosis. At fertilisation, the haploid sperm fuses with a haploid egg to produce a diploid fertilised egg, the zygote. The zygote formed then divides many times by mitosis to grow into a new individual. Male gametes, or male haploid sex cells, whatever you want to call them. These are small and extremely motile? I'm not really sure. Female gametes. These are large and sedentary. This is due to the presence of food. Mammalian eggs differ in that they store very little food, and instead the materials for development are obtained from the maternal blood supply through the placenta. Fertilisation. External fertilisation, such as frogs and amphibians. They discharge their gametes directly into the sea or fresh water. Gametes are quickly dispersed through the water, and there is a strong possibility that many will not encounter sperm. There is considerable wastage, and so large numbers of each gamete must be produced. In the frog, the joining of sperm and eggs is facilitated by sexual coupling. Eggs are laid by the female, and the male immediately releases seminal fluid over them. In amphibians, these can move efficiently on land, but must return to water to reproduce. Fertilisation is external. Internal fertilisation. Fertilisation occurs inside the body of the female. It requires the use of some kind of intromittent organ to introduce the sperm into the female body. It has several advantages. There is less chance of gametes being wasted. It allows the male gamete to become independent of the need for water movement. The fertilised egg can be enclosed within a protective covering before it leaves the female's body. So like an egg. And embryos can also develop within the female parent and derive nourishment from her. This reaches its greatest development in those mammals that nourish their developing young before birth by the means of placenta. Adaptations of animals to life on land. In many animals, the fertilised egg or zygote undergoes development outside the body of the parent. Developing offspring are an easy prey for predators and are food to other species. Many eggs are produced to ensure at least a few survive. In insects, fertilisation is internal. Fertilised eggs are laid on a suitable food source. Internal fertilisation ensures that all sperm are deposited in the female's reproductive tract. In reptiles and birds, gradual adaptation to life on land involves the evolution of an amniote egg. An amniote egg is basically an egg that has a fluid-filled cavity surrounded by a membrane, outside which is a protective shell that encloses the embryo within the yolk of the sac. Birds incubate their eggs, and the embryo completes the development outside the body. In mammals, young are remained for a considerable amount of time in the mother's uterus. There is no shell. The embryo is nourished there from the mother's blood supply via the placenta. Young are born in a relatively advanced state of development. Parental care. Little or no parental care. Many animal species reproduce by laying eggs, and these are left unattended. Pronounced parental care. This occurs in most mammals and species. It provides shelter from unfavourable conditions, it provides protection, it provides feeding, and it often provides a preparation for adult life. The more parental care, the less offspring are produced. Insects are a group that have successfully colonised on land. Incomplete metamorphosis. Incomplete metamorphosis is basically when the adult fertilises the egg and then the egg becomes a larvae or a nymph, which is the intermediate before it becomes the adult again. The larvae or the nymph are juvenile forms. They develop from the egg stage in the lifestyle. Insects have a hard outer skeleton, and in order to grow they shed their skin. They do this several times during the development, and afterwards they resemble the adult. The young nymph hatches from the fertilised egg and goes through a series of molts before it reaches full size. Complete metamorphosis. So this is the adult gives birth to the egg, the adult fertilises the egg, then this becomes the larva, and then this becomes the pupa or the chrysalis. For example, in butterflies, houseflies, and more advanced insects. The pupa or the chrysalis basically is when the larva hatches from the egg and is specialised for feeding and growing. The larvae undergoes a period of change within the pupa and emerges from the adult that is specialised for dispersal and reproduction. This process involves significant changes. It is a significant advantage to have a pupal stage in the life cycle of an insect for two reasons. The first reason is that it allows insects to overcome unfavourable conditions, and the second is that it enables the development of a more specialised adult. Colonisation of land by Angiosperms. Angiosperms? I'm not sure. Algae. Number 1, algae. For example, seaweed. These are simple plant forms. They are confined to an aquatic environment for most of their lives. Number 2, mosses and ferns. These are confined to damp areas. Male gametes require a surface of water in which to swim to the egg. 3, conifers and flowering plants. These become independent of water for their reproduction and are able to colonise on land. Number 4, flowering plants. There are more than 300,000 species. They are well suited to life on land because of the method of reproduction. They have efficient water-carrying xylem vessels. Xylem vessels offer support, and flowers have pollen grains which have a hard coat to withstand desiccation. The pollen grains contain the male gametes, which can be transferred to the female part of the plant. Plant reproduction. The first stage is that the pollen grain is transferred. This can be done by the wind, or insects. To be done by the wind, plants such as grasses have small, green, inconspicuous flowers, and pollen is transferred by the wind. To be transported by insects, in plants where brightly coloured flowers and scent for attraction, the pollen is carried by insects. Sorry, that didn't really make much sense. That's my bad English, that is. The second stage is that the male gamete travels through the tissue of a female plant to the egg by means of a pollen tube. This means that sexual reproduction no longer depends on gametes having to travel through a film of water to reach the egg. And the third stage is that following fertilisation, the fertilised egg develops into a seed containing a food store. The flowering plants are the most successful of terrestrial animals. They are found in nearly every type of habitat, and there is only over 300,000 species. Key features of their success. Their relationship with mammals. For example, plants attract animals, particularly insects, to their flowers in order to feed and exploit their mobility for pollination. The enclosure of the eggs in an ovary. This obviously keeps them safe. And the evolution of the seed. Seeds that result from fertilisation contain food reserves and a resistant coat. They are able to withstand diverse conditions. Why did flowering plants become so successful? The first factor is because of the interval between flower production and the setting of the seed is usually a matter of weeks. The second is that the production of the seed with the food store enables the embryo to develop until leaves are produced above the ground and are able to carry out photosynthesis. The seed also protects the embryo from desiccation and other hazards. And the third is that leaves are deciduous and succulent and decay rapidly on the falling ground. This enables humus to be produced and as a consequence, the recycling of ions by plants. Okay, so that is the end of adaptations for reproduction.